Hello,
I'm Jen,
I'm Kimberly, and this is
and
That
this is
Vegan
that
Morning Show.
Vegan Morning Show.
Good
Happy
morning,
Monday,
Jen.
Kimberly.
Happy Monday. How are you?
I'm good. Good. I'm excited to do our show in a minute.
Me too.
But before we do that, we always talk about our weekends. What'd you do this weekend, Kimberly?
My weekend was so good. So we decided that we were going to try to kind of clean up a little bit around the house, and so on Saturday we got up with that intention to do just that. And we went and we always visit JP's dad on Saturday. So we went and we saw him, and we got home, had lunch, tried to watch a movie, and we both napped. And it was wonderful. And then the whole day was shot. We just kind of just lazed around. I read a book. It was just kind of not what we had planned. We even made like a little list of like a couple of things. We didn't overdo it, so we didn't get overwhelmed. A couple things we wanted to do, and we just wound up kind of napping. I got up before JP did, so I did make dinner. So at least like we had food made at home, which is a goal we're really trying to achieve daily, and we have been failing miserably. So it was really
Oh,
nice that despite the napping, that we had nice food made at home. And then yesterday we were actually productive. We got up and we went out to Home Depot. We picked up a few things we needed to fix, a couple things around the house, and then we were like, let's decorate for Halloween. Halloween is our favorite holiday. JP and I have bonded over our love for all things Halloween, among other things. But yeah, so we set up some decorations outside, and we've got a couple more. We needed some like little suction cups for the windows and stuff. So we'll get that today, and then we'll be able to finish the setup. But it was so fun, and we were just feeling so pleased with ourselves because we did fix a few things, and we hung up. So we've talked about this, right? How long it takes after you move into a place to get things up on the walls. We finally started that. The
yay.
living room has a bunch of stuff, and it just felt really good to get that done. Then like there was football on. JP's in a fantasy football league, so football was kind of in the background. Yesterday, Eagles won, yay! And and so yeah, that was my weekend. How was yours?
First of all, your weekend sounds amazing. I think, it can't be all productive. I think we have it ingrained in our heads that we have to be productive all the time. The fact that
Mhm.
you had such a lovely nap
Yeah.
sounds perfect, right? And then but you were still productive on Saturday a little bit, and then Sunday you were really productive. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see what your Halloween decorations look like and what you put on your walls. That is very
Yeah.
cool. It took us like a year to put things up on our walls.
Yeah, we're getting close. It'll be a year towards the end of December, so
So you just beat the year.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that sounds really great. Yeah, my weekend, well, let's see. Saturday, we went to Port Jervis, New York, which we haven't been to before, I don't think. We've heard of it. We've seen like signs for it on the road or whatever, but we've never
Mhm.
actually been there. And there was a moon festival there over the weekend that Ellie had found. And it's this Asian festival, and it was really fun. But after 30 minutes, we didn't really have much left to do. A lot of it was like kids' activities and stuff like that. But I did get this really cool, like garlic and zester grater thing. It's like in a little dish and you can grate on it. It's got like multiple uses. So I got that. That was cool. And then we actually walked around Port Jervis because it's so funny. Like in the Hudson Valley, there's so many little towns. And whenever me and Ellie, every weekend, we try to do at least one day where we spend doing something together. And we're always like, what's a town we haven't been to? And we think we've like seen them all, but we haven't. And so we walked around Port Jervis and we found this cozy coffee shop we hung out in for a while, just chatting and being silly. And then just walked around. And then it's right on the border of Pennsylvania. So we walked over the bridge into Pennsylvania and we felt cool because we walked to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And then Sunday was productivity. Did some reading that I need to do and did some cleaning, some reorganizing a little bit. And then we went food shopping. And I didn't do any food prep, but over the weekend, this weekend we ate out a lot this weekend. Usually we eat out once or twice. This weekend we ate kind of out a lot. Although the grocery store we went to has like a nice salad bar. So we made a salad there and just stuck it in the fridge to eat when we were ready to eat. So, I don't know if that counts. I don't know if that counts as eating out because we bought the salad at the grocery store. So does that still count as groceries?
I think so. I think it does.
So we ate groceries. Yes. And then football was on. My husband's a huge 49ers fan. They barely won by 1 point. So all was good at home.
Nice.
Ellie was on the edge though of the he was very stressed out.
Can I say though how much I love how much you and your husband enjoy each other's company.
Aww.
You that you go out and you're at a coffee shop and you're just chatting and having a good time. I feel like people don't celebrate that enough. So I just want to celebrate that, you guys have been together 10 years. You've been married for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
better longer than that.
Yeah. And you're still just spending a Saturday afternoon just enjoying each other's company over some coffee. And it's so simple and it's so beautiful. And so I just want to celebrate that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we have a tendency to have fun over the simplest things. We just like to get out and we just like to have adventures, and it doesn't take much for us to have an adventure. Walking around a new town can be an adventure for us sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate
let's
that.
just say a quick hello to Richard. Good morning and happy fall to you as well.
Good morning and happy fall to you, Richard. That's right. It's the fall equinox.
Yeah.
Happening.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I love the fall. It's my favorite season. Everything. I love Halloween. I love Thanksgiving, the veganized version. I just have a lot of memories about my mom around Thanksgiving, and I have found a way, when I cook Thanksgiving food, it makes me feel like my mom is in the kitchen cooking. The only difference is I'm not making meat anymore. So it's the same herbs that are used and the same types of foods so it gives it that same aroma.
Yeah.
So I just love the fall. It's a magical time.
It is. Yeah.
Wow. We've had a very cool weekend, it sounds like. And we have a very cool and interesting topic today.
We do.
That's right. So we saw a video that Ed Winters did about vegetarians a few weeks ago, I think it was. And we thought it would be interesting to do our own version of talking about vegetarianism. So today is about vegans, vegetarians, allies, differences, and the bigger picture. And so we wanted to just have this conversation. A lot of vegans start off as vegetarians. Some vegetarians just stay vegetarians. And we have a lot of shared values, and then things change. And where, something changes where that person's ready to become a vegan. And change does take time. It doesn't happen overnight, especially when you're changing the way you eat and view things. But I'm excited to have this conversation. And today I'm going to be interviewing you because you were a vegetarian for a while before you were a vegan. And so we thought it would be a fun idea if I interviewed you. It was funny because we were meeting, talking about preparing for this episode, and you're sharing all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I should be interviewing you. And you should be talking about this.
It's a great idea. So if you're watching and you have questions for me too, put them in the comments or the replay, of course, ask whatever questions, make your comments, and Jen or I will get back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're always checking the comments. So we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So here's my first question for you, Kimberly. First of all, are you ready to be interviewed?
I am ready.
Usually you're the one who's doing the interviewing.
Yeah, I am ready.
What inspired you to become vegetarian?
That's easy. PETA, an issue of PETA's Animal Times. So
Mhm.
when I like look back across my whole life, I can see that seeds were planted throughout to get me to where I am today, specific to veganism. And so I'd started in high school when I discovered that animals were tested on for beauty products and stuff like that. And I was horrified. So
Mhm.
I started learning about products that weren't tested on animals and I started using those instead. And I would, tell my friends at school about different products when I'd see them using stuff that had been tested on animals. Because a lot of people, when you approach it that way, can be a little more open because they're like, "Oh, I could just use this instead." It doesn't feel like a huge shift the way when we start talking about eating them does. But so I found that there were people who were open to that. And so that was kind of my thing for a little while, but I was still eating animals. And then I got this issue of PETA's Animal Times in the mail, and I don't know why it came to me. I don't recall for the life of me, and I have tried over and over again to like really get back in that moment and try to remember. Did I feel something out that sent this to me? I don't remember. So this shows up in the mail addressed to me. And I knew what PETA was. I'd heard of PETA. So I read it cover to cover. And I was up sick, physically sick and emotionally
Mm.
as well, all night that night. And I had a gourmet meal, as I always say, of Burger King, like a Whopper and with cheese and fries and whatever. That was my last meal before I went vegetarian because I didn't know that I was going vegetarian. Um, and yeah, it was like overnight. I really just I as I was up all night sick, I thought about every meal that I had had, and I realized I every meal had some kind of animal flesh in it, and it just horrified me further. And so I got up the next day and was like, "Okay, well, I'm a vegetarian now." And I lived at home with my parents, and I presented it as, "Okay, I'm doing this," and they were like, "Okay." They didn't give me a hard time, I was almost 20 years old. They didn't give me a hard time, but, nobody believed it was going to stick for a couple of reasons. I was never the first one to pick up the vegetables to put on my plate. I often complained about the vegetables I didn't like, and I had no idea how to cook. So it was kind of a huge learning curve, but what
Yeah.
what got me there to be like, "Okay, I'm going vegetarian," was that issue of PETA's Animal Times.
Wow, that's really interesting. How all of those it's interesting how it started off with the animal testing products, right? You usually don't hear that as a seed that is usually planted for people. And you brought up something really interesting there, how like people didn't isn't it interesting how like animal testing sounds wrong to
Mhm.
people,
Yep.
but eating them doesn't.
Right.
Right? Testing on them, not okay.
Right.
Eating their flesh, that's acceptable,
Of
right?
course. Everybody does it.
Everybody, and that's right what you said right there, right? Everybody does it. And we've talked a lot about cognitive dissonance before. And yeah, it's just how it's always been, right?
Mhm.
And because of that, it just feels normalized. We don't think too much about it. But testing on animals, that has like a different thing. We don't, like you said, we don't have to test on them to use products, but we
Mhm.
don't have to eat animals either to eat.
Right.
But wow, and what was that like then? Like, what did you do at that point where you knew you didn't want to eat animal flesh anymore, but you weren't a fan of vegetables and you didn't know how to
Mhm.
cook? So what did you do from there? What
I
happened?
right. I bought the book Becoming Vegan by Virginia, starts with an M. We'll make sure that it's in the show notes. I'll get the author. She's a
Okay.
registered dietitian. Yeah. I bought Becoming Vegan and I started to read that. But what I did day to day was I started trying different plant milks. I loved cereal, but I never liked milk.
Mm.
So even though I was vegetarian and vegetarians do use, milk products, I was never a big fan of milk. And when I had cereal with cow milk, it was always just enough to make the cereal wet, and because I just didn't like the flavor of it. And so that was the first thing. I ate cereal almost every morning for breakfast. So I had to find a vegetarian cereal and also new milk. And so I started testing that out, and I found the soy milk. So I went for soy milk because this is like early, 2000, middle of 2001. That's the easiest one to find, and both in the refrigerated section and like this shelf stable stuff. And I
Mhm.
hated it. I hated it at first. Like, it tasted like beans, and I was like, I don't like it. But it kind of was the same reaction that I had to cow milk anyway. So I was kind of used to that. But then I discovered rice milk and coconut milk.
Mm.
Yeah, and so I started using those milks in my cereal. Then I ate a lot of pasta covered in cheese. So I'd make like a pot of pasta, have either like shredded mozzarella cheese or like a block of it, and just kind of spread it around in the pasta, cuz like I didn't know how to cook, and the fact that I could get the water to boil and not mess up the pasta was like a huge accomplishment for me. So we're really starting at the basics here.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of lived off of like cereal and pasta with cheese, and like I didn't like cheese sandwiches or anything like that. So I would make like sandwiches of vegetables. When I would go out, or not go out, but if I needed to pick up something quick, I always went to Subway to get like the veggie delight because it was just vegetables.
Mhm.
And so I would make, I would have them stuff it full of veggies, and that would kind of be a meal for me. And so I was really learning how to very simply pull together things that got me, over feeling hungry while I was still learning. And so as I started to understand a little bit more like the nutritional piece from reading that book, Becoming Vegan, then I started like, okay, you have to learn how to like vegetables. And, I was on the internet a little bit, but not the way we are today. So I would spend some time like looking things up, finding simple recipes. I bought, a bunch of cookbooks, and started trying to work my way through those. But woo, it took years for me to make something when when I look back that was like good and I was proud of. I used to post food photos. I didn't join Facebook till like 2009, maybe
That's when I
2007.
joined. I think that's when it
Yeah.
became popular, was 2009.
Yeah, it may have been 2007. Yeah, it was 2007.
Mm.
And so I would post photos of my food, and now when those come up in my Facebook memories, oh my god, I am so like, Kimberly, why were you sharing this? It's like mashed purple potatoes with an ear of corn and some over steamed broccoli. And I was like, here's my dinner. But I was learning. And the fact that the corn wasn't burned and that the broccoli hadn't been turned to total mush was again a huge accomplishment. So yeah, it was that was the process there, kind of working through learning how to eat. And at the same time, I too like I gave away all of my leather shoes, gave away any leather handbags I had. Um, I had already stopped, like we talked about, using products tested on animals, so that was neither here nor there. I kept using what I'd been using, but yeah, like the rest of my life too, I was able to overhaul because, like I said, I was living at home with my parents, so I didn't have a lot of expenses, and I didn't have
Mhm.
a lot of bills. So I was able to replace whatever I needed to with an animal-free option. So really, despite me still eating cheese, the only thing that really kept me from being vegan was the whole like eggs and cheese. So everything else in my life had been replaced by vegan items except those.
Well, first of all, let's take a moment to celebrate and honor that cool plate of veggies that you did, because right, we it's important to celebrate those little steps of growth, right? You went from not eating vegetables and knowing how to cook to being able to do that. So in that moment, yeah, that was a huge accomplishment, right? Because that was something you never done before. Not to mention, that's a very colorful combination, right? Purple sweet potato, corn, and broccoli. So those are
Yeah.
cool colors, right? Like I would want to share something that's colorful like that. But yeah, like, and it just goes to show, right, how you just start where you are in anything in life, right? You just
Mhm.
start where you are and you get better over time, right? We have it in our heads that we have to be perfect
Yeah,
from
and
the
it
beginning.
was more important to me to not be eating animals than to be able to make a perfect plate of vegetables or to
Yeah.
have a ton of food options available to me. I would rather have been hungry or very disappointed with a meal than go back on that.
Yeah. And so the ethics piece pushes that even further. Like for me, it started off with the health and eating. And by that point, I was cooking for a while because I became vegan like 8.5 years ago. And then it took me like 2 years before that. So I was already cooking, but not in the thinking about vegetables the way I started. Like I just thought of them as side dishes, right? Before. And
Mhm.
it takes time to evolve and again, just starting. So, and then the ethical piece is what kept me committed to being vegan.
Yeah.
I just a quick side note, like I didn't consider myself a vegan, I mean a vegetarian before I was vegan. I considered myself an aspiring vegan,
Mhm.
which I was like dabbling, like maybe for a month I would be like vegetarian or like pescatarian. I was mostly like pescatarian, I guess, if you want to slap a label on it. But I would still like eat meat if I was at a family event or someplace where, because I didn't want to, inconvenience anyone. So
Mhm.
it really took me like a couple of years to reach that point of, being committed to no animal, like no flesh at all. So I always looked at myself as like, one day I want to be vegan. So for me, I always looked at myself as like an aspiring vegan, which I guess has crossovers to being vegetarian and
Mhm.
pescatarian. Um, so yeah, I didn't take that traditional path of like identifying as a vegetarian for a while, but it's all transition, right? And
Mhm.
my next big question for you is, at what point did you start questioning vegetarianism and consider veganism?
So I think I always knew that veganism was the goal, and I didn't
Mhm.
think I could do it because I thought I needed eggs and cheese in order to make food.
Mhm.
So it wasn't that, oh, I mean, cheese is super addictive. So the idea of not having cheese also felt like, what do you mean I won't have cheese anymore? And I hadn't done enough research to really understand just how terrible the dairy and egg industry actually is.
Mhm.
And when I was so quick to get rid of my leather shoes, which are considered leather's a byproduct of, animal agriculture and food processing. And I was so quick to get rid of that because I knew that it was connected and it was terrible. And, you know, cows were still dying and then their hides were made into shoes and handbags. So I made the connection there, but I didn't make the connection to just how awful their lives are as dairy cows and,
Mhm.
the way that male chicks are murdered on the day that they're born. And so I hadn't put all that together, which is really interesting because the story that really got me as far as going deciding like I'm not eating animal flesh anymore was a story about a downed cow.
Aw.
So it was cow related, and I still just hadn't made the connection to dairy, and then I did make the connection to dairy, and it was still kind of, like, hard to make that decision to go vegan, and then I would tell myself, "Okay, I'm going to go vegan," and maybe, I'd stop eating cheese and eggs and stuff for a little while, and then I would just go back to it, and it was, "Oh, I'm so stressed out," or "Life is really hard," or "Something happened," and I'm not around a place where I can just eat, vegan food, and I wasn't eating any of the substitutes back in the early 2000s. I didn't eat, like vegan hot dogs or vegan cheese, or I didn't like any of those. I felt like the hot dogs and stuff like that felt too close to what I remembered an actual animal-based hot dog to taste like. So I was really creeped out by that. It was too much for me. And the vegan cheese was just terrible. So I I made a lot of excuses as to why I couldn't, I had to go back to eating cheese or eggs. And I stopped like eating eggs as far as like making a dish of eggs, but I still ate baked goods that had eggs in them.
Mhm.
And then like I declared I was going vegan in 2010, and I did that for probably like a year and a half, and then went back to eating cheese again. And then that went on until 2015 when I finally went vegan. And it was just like the day in 2010 where I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And it stuck this time. Because here we are 10 years later, and I'm still vegan, and I'm happier than I've ever been that way. So
Yeah, well, I thanks for sharing all of that. I mean, I've heard your story before, but it's been a while, and it's different in this context, right? Because we're
mhm.
focusing on your journey as a vegetarian that led you to eventually becoming vegan. And yeah, first of all, there's things have evolved a lot because the early 2000s, the internet was not what it is now. There wasn't all these
Right.
like inspirational resources. You didn't have TikTok or Instagram or, all the various people sharing amazing recipes on things. So you have more access now than you did back then. And then yeah, cheese I mean, I've tried the dairy-free cheese before when it was out. Even though I wasn't vegan, I've tried it before and it was pretty terrible. Like
Yeah.
it was not good.
Mhm.
And because I think I was like curious about it or something, and I was just like, eh, like it just was not good at all.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, and it sounds like yeah, it's that version of the cognitive dissonance that you were feeling. It's like you knew things
Mhm.
about the dairy and egg industry, and you didn't like it, but it still wasn't as bad as like right at that time. It was like, oh, that's not as bad as like eating the meat, right? Eating
Right.
the flesh of an animal. And
Mhm.
and again, it's that gradual process of, working on those things.
Yeah.
Um, my next question for you, Kimberly, is what advice would you give to someone who is vegetarian and is thinking about going vegan?
Just do it. Just do it. I mean, like you're saying, we have so many more resources now. It is much easier to be vegan, to find vegan items across your whole life, not just food. There's just we know too much,
Yeah.
and it is like, for me, my thoughts on vegetarianism, despite having been one for so long, is I'm really disappointed in myself for staying
Mhm.
vegetarian as long as I did. And I wish, I feel like, because I knew things, and I still didn't take that full action, and a lot of animals suffered because I didn't make that choice, because I could have made that choice sooner. So I've heard some vegans say like vegetarianism, especially if you're doing it from an ethical perspective, might be worse than being an animal flesh eater.
Really?
And it's because you know these things. You understand. Like, a lot of people who eat animals know that stuff happens, but they don't know the details. They don't understand the level of suffering. They don't understand what goes into making that neatly packaged piece of flesh that they're picking up from the grocery store. And that is another issue in and of itself. It's not an excuse, that's another issue. But when
Mhm.
you're going vegetarian because you felt like animals are suffering and I can make a difference, I can make a change in my life, and you have the resources to be vegan, you should just be vegan. You can just be vegan and skip this whole part of being vegetarian. I really wish that I had just been stronger in my conviction and made that choice. And I know that, like, yeah, that would be my advice. Just do it. There's so many resources out there.
Mhm.
I mean, you're looking at 2 of them right now. We are 2 incredible resources, you and me, for people who want to go vegan or need help even transitioning from vegetarian to vegan. And we're not the only ones. There
Yeah.
are so many people out there, so many different books. It just is like, just do it. Join us over here on the fully green side. It's happy. I mean, it's sad too, but we are living more aligned with our values than if we were vegetarian, especially from the animal perspective, the animal suffering perspective.
Yeah, that is so true. It is so much easier to be a vegan now. I mean, yes, you're going to have challenges, but knowing the things that we know, we can't unknow it,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We know
Yep.
too much.
Yes.
And and yeah, it's so easy now. It's much easier now than people who did it 15, 20, 30, and beyond years ago. Like when
Mhm.
we've had guests on who've been vegan since like the 70s or 80s, it's like, wow, like how
Yeah.
is that possible?
Right. Oh my gosh. A
That was a
lot of
different
textured
time,
vegetable protein.
right?
So that's a lot of textured vegetable
That's a
protein.
lot of textured, yes.
TVP.
Yes, TVP. A lot of TV because that was probably the
Yeah.
only thing around then, right? And probably
Yeah.
tofu. I mean, tofu existed back then too.
Right, of course, yeah, tofu's been used by Asian cultures for centuries, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, even here it has been available.
But you know
Yeah.
what? A side note about tofu, like my mom would buy it when I was a kid and it was just little mushy chunks and I wasn't really the biggest fan of it cuz she was not doing the things that we know how to do with it now,
Right.
right? Like
Yeah.
and again, I feel like social media has helped the vegan movement. Sometimes it can hurt the vegan movement with misinformation. We've talked about
Mhm.
that before on here.
Yeah.
Um, but that's just social media in general. Uh, but it also there's a lot of good that it can provide. And there's a lot again, being aligned with your values, there is there's just other benefits you get emotionally from being vegan. You connect to yourself in a totally different way. And I think also your energy is just different because you're not consuming the energy of suffering.
Right.
And right, like I feel like that has an impact on just our overall energy. Like
Mhm.
aside from digestion and all the other health stuff, just looking at it from an energetic perspective of you're consuming suffering. Even if
Yeah.
it's dairy, even if it's eggs, it's all exploitation and suffering. And when you remove that from your diet and just also from the things you wear and use, it does, I feel like you just become more empathetic in general.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that. Less angry too, which comes from not consuming, like you said, the suffering, the adrenaline, all of that that's in the animal flesh because of the level of horror that they experience at the end of their lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Wow. Well, we are at time.
We
This was
are.
so great interviewing you and
Thank
asking you
you.
more about your vegetarian journey.
Yeah, these
Before
are
we
great
wrap up,
questions.
thank you. Um, Before we wrap up, is there anything you want viewers to know on what we just talked about today? Any other final thoughts you want to share?
Um, I guess, like, if you're vegetarian, you may have felt judged a little bit by some of the things that I said, maybe more towards the end of it. But just know that you're feeling that way because you know in your heart that there is a further step that you can take and you are ready to do it. So do it. And then separate from this, as Richard mentioned, it's fall, and tonight I have a special fall autumn equinox
Mm.
meditation happening at 8 p.m. Eastern. So you get more info on that from my social media or my website, didyoubringthehummus.com. Thanks.
I think people should go do that.
I agree.
If I didn't have anything else going on, I would be doing it too. Your meditations are amazing, both online and in person. So
Thank
I just
you.
want to say that if anybody wants to join those, you don't have to be vegan to
Nope.
enjoy meditation. And yeah, if you feel lost or stressed about being vegan or overwhelmed by it, reach out to me and Kimberly. Let us know. We can
Yeah.
help, as
Yeah.
best as we can, help you get started with it. I'm vegan in a non-vegan household. That has its own challenges too. So me and Kimberly, we're at the same place now, but we took different journeys to get here. So if you ever need help, just let us know in the
Yeah.
comments or message us, and we're here for you.
Yes.
On that note, I hope you all have an amazing day and week. Thanks for tuning in, whether it's live or the replay. And let us know where you're watching too. Just put in the notes. We like to know where people are tuning into this. So yeah, let us know.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.